All right, guys, let's talk about a couple drills today that are going to help you do three things. One, we're going to learn how to release the club and kind of eliminate our chicken wing today. Two, we're going to learn how to stay in better posture and rotate a little bit better, keeping our side bend. And three, we're going to learn better sequencing with where, if you're somebody who comes over the top, a lot of times you're going to turn a lot early. The third drill that we talk about today is going to hopefully help clean that up. So let's get into it. So for these drills, all you're going to really need is a ball of some sort. I use just like a mini soccer ball. I have a target here on the ground. It's actually just one of our impact bags here at the academy. But really, what we're going to start to get into is our first drill. And that drill is going to talk about how to kind of release the club a little bit better and start to eliminate that chicken wing that so many of you I see for lessons struggle with. Let's first define what a chicken wing is, right? Like, so when we start talking about chicken winging, it's really this lead arm coming through the golf ball, and you'll see that elbow start to bend. When you look at it from down the line, as someone comes around, you'll see that elbow start to pull out behind them there. So a lot of times when somebody does that, they'll top the ball, they'll leave the club face really open. Some players on occasion will also kind of use that, and that kind of is how they start to really shut the face, so they struggle getting the ball in the air with that. So if that kind of sounds like you, this may be a good drill for you to kind of start with. The way that I like to kind of think about this is like, if I was going to take this ball, I think of throwing a frisbee, right? If I was going to take a frisbee and throw it, I'm going to throw it, and this forearm and my lead arm here, as I go to let go of that frisbee, there's going to be some supination in this forearm. So if we're not clear on what supination is, pronation is the palm down, supination is the palm up. I was always taught, think about it, you're trying to hold a bowl of soup. Pronation, you're going to dump it out. Okay, so as we start to get into this motion, and we talk about releasing the club and eliminating that chicken wing, a lot of times for players, that's why they have that chicken wing, is there is no supination in that lead arm. Sometimes it has to do with rotation in the body, but for today's purposes, we're going to talk about supination in that lead arm. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of grab the front edge of this ball. I'm going to get into my posture, and I'm about, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 feet away from that bag. From here, I'm just going to make a mini backswing, and my only goal now is I'm going to start to toss that ball at the bag. Now, when I get out here, you'll notice two things about this. One, my lead arm here is nice and straight, and two, this palm is facing you in the camera, or as if I was trying to shake somebody's hand out here. I haven't overly rotated that palm up. If you kind of struggle with this at first, this might not be a bad thing, kind of letting it overly rotate. But you'll notice here when I get here, again, my palm's at you. Again, I can shake somebody's hand. This elbow is not retracted back. Okay, so if I grab that ball again, and we kind of just go through a couple of those motions, wind back, toss. Again, when I start to learn that, it's teaching me two things about that: where I have to release that ball and how to kind of control that forearm and that elbow. So I find this drill to be very effective for players that struggle with the chicken wing and kind of getting that arm retracted really quickly in the backswing, or on the follow through. It's also a really good drill though to kind of teach up timing and like when all that should happen. So if if I start to release this ball early or anything like that, I'd kind of like throw it back behind me a little bit. If I struggle with that chicken wing still and I still kind of pull it, I'm going to start to kind of pull it up and out. So it really starts to just give me a nice, for me as an athlete, it just allows me to tap into that athleticism a little bit more and really time some of this up. Okay. So let's jump into drill number 2, and that's going to kind of tie in with this. And so drill number 2 is going to help us kind of start to stay in side bend and better rotations. It also does help with releasing of the club too. But it's more or less for rotation and side bend. So using that same bag and that same ball, I'm now going to put 2 hands on that ball. I'm going to kind of set up. Again, it's kind of same distance I was from that ball, or from that bag, excuse me. I'm going to make this backswing. And from here, now I'm just going to start to toss that ball at the bag. Now when I do this, a couple things to note. My arms are extended down towards that bag. My trail shoulder, and in my case, my right shoulder, is lower to the ground than my left. And my right heel is off the ground and my left leg is straight, right? So if I can start to repeat that kind of process, starts to help me stay in my side bend, starts to help me learn where to release the ball to get to that bag, but it also helps my arms understand their job is to propel the club outward, okay, towards the target there. I don't want to be coming in there and going, pulling everything up, throwing the ball really high. Again, if somebody comes out of posture, one of the things that you'll start to see is they'll come through and they'll throw the ball high and miss the target down there. And a lot of times when I ask them to hold that finish, they're here, and you'll notice now they're up and out of posture. Okay, so we want to be side bend, arms are lower at that point. Okay, so drill number 2 there is really important to help you learn good rotation within your posture. Again, it can help with some of the releasing of the golf club too, but I definitely find it to be more valuable in terms of just how we get the club to and down the target line. Drill number 3. This one's a little bit easier to do. I find this is just really good for sequencing. For my players that come over the top slicing the golf ball because they swing across it, what you'll start to see is players get up here and then they'll start to bring everything because they turn, they bring the ball over, and then they start to throw this thing down, and they throw it down like out in front of their lead foot. What I'm going to have somebody sit here and do is I want them to actually make this backswing, and I don't want them to turn at all. I actually want them to sit here and just spike the ball down. You notice when I do that, my chest, my hips, everything's still facing you. I haven't turned anything in that motion. So I'm going back and I'm spiking that ball down. You can do this with, a very light ball. It is a good way of training speed. One of the drills or one of the exercises I actually do with my PT and strength coach is we'll have, and I think it's a 6-pound medicine ball that we use. So it's not crazy heavy, but we don't really need it to be crazy heavy. We just need it heavy enough to where I can generate a lot of force with it. So we go back, and it's really a spiking motion. Whoop, hit the tripod. So, but yeah, as we start to work through that motion, that sequencing, it does help us add some speed. It can get rid of some of that slicing that we see. So, that's a really good drill for somebody if they are starting to struggle with those things. Now, as a bonus, I am going to show you a 4th drill here. This 4th drill is one that can help us a little bit more with like using the ground a little bit more effectively and kind of how to sequence our rotation and like how we, you see a lot of these young kids on tour, and you start to watch their lead foot and it almost looks like they like jump off the ground, right? And so that's, everyone's talking about ground forces and how to use the ground more, blah, blah, blah about the ground. So this 4th drill that I'm going to show you, this is one of the ways that I like to teach it to my junior kids. I also use it for some of my adults because it does help. But what we're going to do, we're going to take that same ball. We're going to hold it right here in the middle of our chest. I'm going to throw my elbows out, and I'm going to get in my posture. And from there, I'm going to back up a little bit here. All right, now with that, we're going to rotate back. And you'll notice I keep that ball real close to my chest. I'm not going to like push it out or anything like that. I'm going to just make a nice full turn. And again, my goal is to get my elbows kind of to this 90-degree position towards the golf ball at the ground. And then from here, I'm going to really push that ball hard to the ground. And you'll notice when I do that, that lead leg of mine has to push really hard. I almost have to snap it back. And when that starts to happen, all right, that starts to help me understand how to push everything in my golf swing and start to get that sequencing. It does help me train, good forces within the ground, but it does it within a way that doesn't make it, in my opinion, something I have to really think about. If somebody told me to pick up this ball and slam it, right, I'm going to pick it up here and I'm going to jump down to slam it, but that's not really our goal here in the golf swing. I need to propel something faster. In order to do that, there's got to be a pushing motion off the ground, but I can't just sit here and go like this to do that. That's not going to really help me. So I sit here with this ball, start to rotate back, and then push it really hard. You'll notice now I stay more in my posture. It pushes me really hard off the ground. So this is one of those drills I find to be very useful, but it's also kind of fun, to be totally honest with you. So I think, and that's kind of important when it comes to doing drills and things like that, is kind of making the drills more fun, kind of somewhat like mini games that you play with yourself. Like here, I like to sit here and do my, the one-handed drill that we were talking about, and sit here and try and throw it really hard at that bag with that. I was a right-handed pitcher in baseball, so I also like to do this right-handed, wind up and throw it, right? So that does also help me with posture, right? So if I can wind up, throw it. And again, same thing with that trail arm. When I start to get out here, you'll notice there's some pronation. In this case, there's going to be pronation in the trail arm, right? Because I don't want to stay supinate. It's going to leave the club face open. So I get some pronation in the right arm here, my trail arm. And again, same kind of position though. I'm in that same spot where I could shake your hand. My palm's not turned down. I'm not trying to dominate somebody. I'm not being a dickhead. Okay. So hopefully these videos help you guys. Hopefully these drills help you guys. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll get to them as fast as I can.